Let's start this meeting, formal meeting, City Council, Tuesday, January the 21st, 2020. First thing we'll do is have an invocation by Bishop Slater. All stand, please. And then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Good evening. Shall we come together and pray as one unit, as one family, one city? Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we can come together, Lord, to do bidding, to do your business, Lord. Father, we thank you for the men that we've selected and the women that we've selected to do the work on our behalf. Father, I pray, Lord, that you cover their minds, Lord, that is the decisions that they make, they keep us in mind. Father, we thank you for what's getting ready to happen even in this city, in our growth and our expansion. We ask you for your supreme favor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now have roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Broadway.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Pollak.
Present.
Councilmember Matthews.
Present.
Councilmember Ham.
Present.
Councilmember Acott.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item is approval of the minutes. The minutes of the work session and regular meeting of December 16th, 2019.
Move to adopt the minutes of the work session and regular meeting section on December 16th, 2019.
A roll call vote.
Second.
Second.
Second. Who was in the second? Okay, sorry. Second.
Roll call.
Roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Broadway.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Pollak.
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews.
Yes.
Councilmember Ham.
Yes.
Councilmember Acott.
Yes.
Our next item of business is a presentation from the Zeta Phi Beta sorority, and it's their month, and I think we're celebrating a lot, and I see a lot of them out here today. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and then we'll ask everybody to come up, and I'll present you the whereas the Zeta Phi Beta sorority incorporated, one of the country's largest African-American women's service organization, will mark its 100th year of service with Centennial Week activities January the 12th through the 18th, 2020 in Washington, D.C. And Zeta Phi Beta sorority incorporated was founded in 1920 on the campus of Howard University and is headquartered in Washington, D.C. Zeta has initiated a diverse membership of more than 125,000 college-educated women with more than 850 chapters in North America, Europe, Asia, Caribbean, Africa, and the Middle East. Whereas the sorority takes pride in its continued participation in transforming communities through volunteer service from members and its auxiliaries, Zeta Phi Beta has chartered hundreds of chapters worldwide and has a membership of over 100,000. And whereas Zeta's national and local programs include the endowment of its National Education Foundation, community outreach services, and the support of multiple affiliate organizations. Zeta chapters and auxiliaries have given untotaled hours of voluntary service to educate the public, assist youth, provide scholarships, support organized charity, and promote legislation for social change and civic change. Therefore, I, Bill Broadway, Pro Tem City of Goldsboro, do hereby proclaim January the 20th Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated month in the city of Goldsboro and congratulate the sorority on their 100th anniversary. And if you ladies would come up, I'll have that. And if I have somebody that is the president want to talk, Miss Juanita's already told me somebody's going to talk.
Let's see, where is our preacher? Sorry. We'll let her do the time.
Thank
You know
you.
what?
We would like to say thank you on behalf of the Zeta Phi Beta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated for this recognition in the celebration of 100 years of fine womanhood, sisterhood, and service for our sorority. Thank you all so very much for recognizing us this evening.
And thank you for what you do.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Get a photograph.
Let me get on the side. All those pretty ladies.
Thank you.
Just good to see you. We'll get those pictures. Our next item on our presentation is by Craig Honeycutt, Wayne County Manager. And his subject is the quarter-cent sales tax support request. And we have Dr. Dunsmore and we have Mr. Honeycutt here.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. This is something we are asking all municipalities and really any group that will have us throughout the county, is your support on the quarter-cent sales tax. As you're aware, both boards, the school board and the board of commissioners, have committed the proceeds from the quarter-cent sales tax, $2.6 million to about $32 million worth of projects that are all over Wayne County. And right here is, we have a couple of posters. One really talks about what the quarter-cent sales tax is. You know, again, we have a 6.75% sales tax in the state of North Carolina. Oh,
They're the important ones.
okay. We have a 6.75% sales tax in the state of North Carolina. The state statutes give us, by referendum, the chance to add an additional quarter-cent to the sales tax. So what we have decided to do in working with the school board is commit that money towards education. And this is a list of the projects that we would like to commit the funding towards. So.
Yeah, and if you look at those, primarily here for in the city of Goldsboro, some renovation work at Goldsboro High School. Our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system failed. It is original to the building. It has to be replaced, and with that, all the windows, because it never had a heating, ventilation, air conditioning in it, we used window units, so it's rotted all the windows out. And we like to tell everybody, we ran the numbers, and Dr. Lewis and my staff's back here, to fix every school or build a new school everywhere in this county would be a little over $240 million. And we have a lot of need across the county. This is probably going to take us for the next 5 years. We have a follow-up plan for 5 to 10, and then it's probably going to stretch us out to about 20 years. A lot of us aren't going to be around to see that, but we're trying to build for the future.
And I do want to recognize the Assistant County Manager, Chip Crumpler, who's here with us, and also our board chairman from the Board of Commissioners, Mr. Ray Mayo. But again, the percent, it is not for unprepared food, it is not on gas, and it's not on medicine. So right now, again, you're paying 6.75%. You will pay 7 cents per 100. So if you buy $100 worth of goods and services, you'll pay an additional 25 cents. And we believe that that's a fair way to put towards education. And again, these are projects that are necessary. One of the things that we talked about, one way or the other, these projects have to be done. And if we don't get a quarter-cent sales tax, we're probably going to have to look at raising taxes about 3.5 cents just to pay for these projects. Not projects that are still on the drawing board, but just for these projects is an additional 3.5 cents on the tax rate.
And if and when the state budget passes, you've heard a lot on the money for school construction. Wayne County's allotted for that $19.1 million that we are prepared with another complete replacement of the school building.
And one of the questions that you may get and that we get and the board may get as well is, what about lottery funding? We do get lottery funding from the state. However, we have committed those funds that we receive on an annual basis to debt service for the $94 million worth of schools that the Board of Commissioners have done over the past 7 years. So those lottery funds are committed. We're looking for a new set of revenue or a new funding stream so that we can get a little bit more debt, and the $2.6 million will fund the $32 million in school capital projects.
Yes, ma'am.
I've seen the signs about vote nets for the courtesan. What about people who don't have access to see those signs? How do voters get to know what this, get the explanation about what this is?
So they can go on our website. We have a dedicated link on the Wayne County Public Schools website that has all the projects on, as well as pictures of everything. We are starting Thursday night. We're going to all of our feeder patterns in the different areas around the counties and having public meetings to answer questions and try to spread the word and hopefully have people understand.
Okay, I'm a senior,
Yes,
so there are a lot of seniors who do not have access, that kind of access to the internet, or even know how to find that information. How do you get that information to them?
Word of mouth is about the best we can do without the local newspapers anymore, but we're getting around, we're speaking to any public community groups that will have us. So if there's a group you'd like us to come out to, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to come out and speak and answer questions.
We're a road show. We're glad to travel. So if we're invited, we'll be more than happy to come. Again, the time frame on this is fairly short as well. Early voting starts February 13th, and the bond will be, or the referendum will be on the ballot for the primary, which will be March 3rd. So we don't have a lot of time to get the information out. But we are getting out, and we have received a lot of positive support from every group that we have presented so far.
What group are you guys targeting specifically?
Anybody and everybody. Right now, we're hitting all municipalities. We've been to the Republican Party. We have asked to go to the Democratic Party. Any group that will have us, we would love to go and get the word out about the need in the community.
Who would this affect most?
As far as the results of that,
Not as far as the actual process. Like she said, there's some citizens or some senior citizens who might not have the, be able to afford to do that, or there are some citizens that are less income, lower income, that might not be able to afford as well. So my question is basically, like, what's in place to make sure it's kind of equal for everybody?
Well, if you look at the project list, we tried to spread out the project list that reached everybody, especially with the security piece. So it is a far-reaching, we have needs all over the county, but this is really our pressing needs as well. We also are under a K-3 class mandate from the state of North Carolina. We have to build up to 50 classrooms in the next 3 years as required by the state. This will help also in meeting that mandate for the K-3 class size.
All right, last one. If this is being done to raise funds to help build schools and build our own schools, what is being done to help raise funds to pay the teachers inside the school?
What we're doing right now is just looking at capital. The county is responsible for capital, and we're responsible for the building and the bricks and the mortar. We did increase the teacher supplement in last year's budget. Again, a lot of those issues are state issues and not local issues with respect to pay. But our sole responsibility is the brick and mortar, and this is what this is funding for.
our teacher salaries are state mandated. Now the locals do have the option to put a supplement on those, is what's paid out. They're far ranging across the state. And Mr. Honeycutt said the capital issues with that. We have 4 buildings that are approaching 100 years old. That are, and most of you are aware here in the city limits, Goldsboro, Dillard are very, very old buildings. And the roof on Dillard is, I think that was built with the building. Goldsboro, we have a 3 boiler set there. A boiler was condemned, and when they went down inspecting it, they realized the second one had to be shut down. So we have to replace these things.
And one of the things I do want to mention, and I think is a credit to both the school board and the board of commissioners, we have listed the projects that we want to do. And again, those projects are across the county. So if this project list changes, then it'll have to be approved by both boards. So we're out front, really trying to say, these are the projects that we want to do. These are the projects that we feel like are most pressing. And hopefully these are the projects that at least will touch all areas of our county.
I understand that infrastructure is important, but I think the question that he is asking is also important. I mean, what is the point of having great infrastructure if you still don't have qualified educators in there to teach the curriculum that these individuals need to learn? And that's the question he's asking is, we realize the state pays the salaries, but each county or municipality, whatever, gets opportunity to increase the supplement. And they can give up supplement. Some of our surrounding areas pay 10 and 19% supplements versus the 6% I think we have currently here. So I think that's his question is there going to be some supplement increase with that? I know that 800,000 was given last year, I'm aware of that. However, is there going to be an increased amount to make us more competitive so that we can bring in some of these individuals that will be able to be in those classrooms that we do?
That's a budget issue for our general fund. And I agree teachers are important, supplements are important, but what this is specifically doing is we're focusing it just on capital. As Mike said, we've got schools, we've got mandates, and our responsibility is classrooms and brick and mortar. We agree with you that that's important, but what we're asking for with the quarter cent is committing that to capital, because we are really, as Mike said, over $240 million possibly that could be spent for upgrades within our community.
One more thing. So what are the specific schools that you guys are, because what I learned from the other meetings is now basically is that there's like tallies and things, so it's not really appropriated to the right school. So what I'm asking you is basically, what's like what schools do you have listed down to?
We've got the list right here, but you know, between classrooms, new school at Fremont, the projects that Mike talked about at Goldsboro High School, security issues throughout our community. So we really did try to touch all aspects of the community.
Well, I'll make it a little more specific for you. They just did Meadow Lane, right? Just did Meadow Lane. They're supposed to be state-of-the-art school, great stuff. Then you still got Dillard, you still got Goldsboro, you still got Carver Heights, you still got all of these schools which predominantly have mostly Aboriginal kids inside of them. So they're still losing. But then you have Meadow Lane that's real raw and state-of-the-art. So what's going to be done with this act that's going to help schools of lower income students?
Well, we're meeting the needs of those, as I said, with Goldsboro High School, there's things that we have to do. That building is in jeopardy of being closed. Same with the roof on Dillard, roof on Carver Heights. We've put an awful lot of capital improvement in Carver Heights already this year, repainted the whole interior of the building. And we're trying to do what we can with the money we have.
I have a question for you, gentlemen. How are you today? Thank you so much for coming. My concern is, how can we reassure taxpayers that these tax dollars are going to go to the schools and later it won't change?
Well, that's why I think one of the things, Mr. Williams, again, thank you for having us. I think it's a great question. As you're aware, this was on before and there was never a plan with the specific projects. So we've already started working with our engineers on these. Now I will tell you the figures are based on formulas that we have, is what we came up with. We're hoping some of these projects come in under budget, we're going to be able to do more. But I can assure you, once you go to the local government commission and take debt service or a bond, you have to put these projects on it to get the money, and then we have to complete them.
Right. Once the quarter cent is passed and the list of projects, we will try to look at what that budget is. And as Mike said, we have to go to the local government commission, and then we'll borrow the money. And again, the $2.6 million that the quarter cent will raise that'll be the debt service for the $32 million over the next 20 years.
Okay, so we're gonna make sure, that it's gonna be equally distributed throughout all these projects. Okay. Okay.
And just
Well,
for a sense of clarity, you did say that if this doesn't pass, the remedy to that will be 3 cents increase.
On the property.
Three and a half.
tax. Yes, sir.
On what now?
Just for these projects.
Right.
Just for and these are immediate projects that are done now, especially with the K-3 class size mandate.
Right.
I believe it is 50 classrooms,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, because I teach at Goldsboro High School, and this past, last week, the latter part, the upstairs A building had no heat at all. So to address that school was erected in 1927, and something needs to be done. I mean, I work there, so I see it daily. And if, like you're saying, that's what I'm saying, for clarity, if this doesn't pass, then it's gonna be a 3 cent versus a quarter cent, so,
Yes, sir.
okay.
These gentlemen have another meeting. I appreciate all the questions, but I
Yes.
think you've got to make another meeting, don't you? So,
Yeah, but what again, we would like to ask your support.
I have a resolution
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna read.
Okay.
Okay, y'all, if you need to make that meeting, go ahead.
Not the entire
We can send you a copy of these posters electronically
Okay.
as well, if you'd like.
Okay, and I'll read the resolution, we'll get it to you.
All right, okay.
Thank you. I now have a resolution to read this. It's a resolution in support to place a 1/4 of 1 cent local option sales tax on the March 3, 2020 primary in Wayne County, North Carolina. Whereas the North Carolina General Assembly has authorized county boards of commissioners across the state of North Carolina to levy a 1/4 of 1 cent county sales and use tax contingent on an advisory referendum in which the majority of those casting ballots in the county vote for the levy of the tax. And the Wayne County Board of Commissioners believe the education of the children and youth of Wayne County is a critical mission and priority. And whereas Wayne County is faced with extraordinary funding pressures resulting from public education needs, and whereas the 2014 state budget, Senate Bill 402, rewrote the lottery statutes and eliminated the 40% statutory guarantee of net lottery proceeds for school construction, which was dedicated funding stream in place since the lottery's inception in 2005. Whereas the Wayne County Board of Education has identified significant needs, and whereas the Wayne County Board of Commissioners will use the funds to pay debt on additional new school construction, and whereas the Wayne County Board of Commissioners has already provided over $90 million in the last 8 years to new school construction improvements and pay debt obligations to maintain Wayne County Public Schools in a safe and comfortable condition as possible, whereas additional school resources officers are needed to provide the safest environment possible for students, teachers, and staff at all Wayne County Public Schools, and whereas the implementation of a 1/4 cent local option sales tax excluding gas, prescription medication, and non-prepared food or groceries is anticipated to generate approximately $2.6 million in revenue per year in Wayne County to facilitate school. I now ask for a roll call vote to ask for a motion.
I have to have a motion. I make a motion that we passed a resolution of support to place a 1/4 cent sales tax on the March 3rd, 2020 primary in Wayne County.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem Broadway,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Perrette,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Ham,
Yes.
Councilmember Laycock.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate you having us.
And the ladies, we're going into public hearings. I don't know if you want to hear those or not. Thank you for coming.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We now go into public hearings. This is a public hearing. For public hearing Z-23-19, D and J Sand and Gravel.
Good evening, Council. Item D is Z-2319, D and J Sand and Gravel. The property is located on the east side of Claridge Nursery Road between West US 70 Highway and West US 70 Bypass. The applicant is requesting the rezoning of approximately 115 acres from residential R16 to general industry conditional district, which would limit the property to the operation of a sand and gravel business. Sand and gravel operations are a permitted use within the general industry I-2 zoning district only after the issuance of a conditional use permit approved by City Council. In addition to the rezoning request, the conditional use permit, the applicant is requesting an off-premise sign to be located upon private property fronting Claridge Nursery Road, since the subject property has no road frontage for commercial advertising signage. Council approval is required for off-premise advertising signs in accordance with the city's Unified Development Ordinance. Let's back up one time. Surrounding zoning, to the north you have residential, to the south general industry I-2 and residential R16, to the east R16, and to the west residential R16. The property is currently operated as a sand and gravel operation. As previously stated, the applicant is requesting a zoning change from residential to general industry conditional district, which would limit the property to a sand and gravel business. The applicant states that the sand and gravel business has been operating prior to acquisition of the property in December of 2017, and that he was unaware that the property was zoned for residential purposes. Now the applicant is in need of commercial advertising signage for the promotion of his business. Council approval is required due to the fact that he has no road frontage required for commercially zoned properties. Currently, the applicant proposes to locate the off-premise sign across the street from an access easement leading to the subject property off Claridge Nursery Road. The property is zoned general business and would permit a freestanding sign in accordance with the city's Unified Development Code. Hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with 1 to 2 employees. The submitted site plan indicates a 30-foot wide easement allowing access to and from the business that extends from Claridge Nursery Road approximately 560 feet eastward to the applicant's western property line. According to the Unified Development Ordinance, 1 parking space per employee and 5 customer parking spaces are required for the sand and gravel business. The applicant's requesting a modification of the city's paving requirement for vehicular surface areas, since commercial trucking operations will involve hauling and delivery of sand, gravel, and similar materials. Existing vegetation surrounding the site satisfies the city's landscape requirements for the proposed use. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends conservation and medium-density residential development. City water and sewer are not available to serve the property, and the subject area is located within a special flood hazard area known as the 100-year floodplain. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for the Council's meeting on February the 3rd, 2020. Any questions? The picture on the screen shows the property. The access easement to the property is on your right, and the off-premise sign that's being requested will be placed on the property directly across from that on the left. Any questions?
This is a public hearing. Anyone having any comments for or against? Anyone having comments for or against this public hearing? If not, this hearing is closed. We'll go to the next one. Z-24-19.
Item E is Z-2419 J.D. Pike Jr. The property is located on the west side of North Center Street between West Oak Street and West Ash Street. The applicant's requesting the rezoning of 2 lots from Central Business District to General Business. The applicant owns property directly north of the subject properties and is currently zoned General Business. Lot 1 has a frontage of 91 feet along North James Street, and Lot 2 has a frontage of 149 feet on North Center Street. Surrounding zoning, to the north you have General Business, and to the south, east, and west you have Central Business District, and also to the west you have General Business. The 2 lots were formerly used for the operation of a used car business and service center. The site has been closed for more than 6 months, and the owner has decided to sell the property. Currently, the applicant is in the process of selling the commercial property once operated for the used car sales and service, and formerly known as J.D. Pike Motor Company. He believes the marketability of the property will increase if the property is zoned to general business. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends mixed-use downtown development. City water and sewer are available to serve the property, and the subject area is not located in a special flood hazard area. The subject property is, however, located in the Goldsboro's historic district. Any exterior improvements to the property, including signage, shall comply with the historic district guidelines before a building permit can be issued in the future. At this time, there is no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for your council meeting on February the 3rd.
Again, this is a public hearing. Any person speaking for or against this proposal from the planning board is here to listen. There be no further comments. We'll go to item F. That is CU-13-19, Jerry Futrell.
Item F is CU 1319 Jerry Futrell. If you recall, this item was presented at the December 16th public hearing, and at the applicant's request, council did approve to allow that public hearing to remain open until tonight. So I'll just brief you through the request. The property is located on the east side of US 117 South between Arrington Bridge Road and South George Street. The applicant is requesting that the internet cafe have the games be increased. It was previously approved for 20 gaming machines at this location on September the 3rd of 2013. On June 2nd of 2014, City Council denied a request to increase the number of gaming machines from 20 to 35 based on requiring 2 parking spaces per machine. On August 4th, 2014, the Council approved a parking ordinance amendment to the city's UDO, Unified Development Ordinance, requiring 1.5 parking spaces per machine. In addition, they approved the previous owner's request to allow an increase in the number of gaming machines from 20 to 35. The previous owner closed the business in March of 2016 upon an order of the District Attorney's Office. Once software upgrades were installed and in compliance with state law, he reapplied for a conditional use permit to operate an internet cafe in accordance with the city's Unified Development Ordinance. City Council approved site, landscape, and floor plans for the previously approved 35 gaming machines on January the 3rd of 2017. On May 8th of 2017, City Council amended the city's electronic gaming ordinance. Several requirements were approved as they pertain to the new gaming establishments proposed for operation in the City of Goldsboro's planning jurisdiction. Electronic gaming operations are permitted only in the general business zoning district after the attainment of a conditional use permit approved by City Council. No establishment shall be located within 500 feet of any residentially zoned or developed property, church, school, daycare, playground, or public park. Where the proposed establishment is separated from residentially zoned or development property by a 4-lane highway, the 500-foot separation shall only apply to the properties along the sides and rear of the establishment. No such establishment shall be located within 1 mile of another such establishment, and hours of operations were limited to 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. At that time, City Council made no changes to the existing parking requirement of 1.5 spaces per machine. As previously stated, the applicant is requesting to amend an existing conditional use permit for the operation of an internet cafe to increase the number of gaming machines from 35 to 101. Currently, the property, it is zoned general business. Hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 2 a.m., 7 days a week, with 2 employees. Site and landscape plans for the operation were previously approved. In addition, parking requirements were in compliance with the city's Unified Development Ordinance. And as stated before, there were a number of modifications that were approved with the last approval. They were provided our modified rear yard landscapes buffer due to grade separation at railroad tracks, vehicle surface buffer at front due to existing pavement and public right-of-way, street tree requirement, and they were also granted the distance from residentially zoned property from 200 feet to 125 feet. Parking, as previously stated, is required at 1.5 space per gaming machine. The applicant contends that the city's current parking requirement is excessive based on the fact that only one customer can operate one gaming machine at any one time. Currently, there are 52 paved parking spaces to serve the site. 152 parking spaces are required. Parking areas are available to meet the city's current parking requirements north and east of the facility. However, the applicant does not desire to provide paved parking in accordance with the city standards. As such, the applicant's requesting a modification of the city's parking requirement from 152 to 52 parking spaces. At the public hearing held on December the 16th, the applicant requested the public hearing remain open until tonight due to the applicant not being able to attend the December 16th public hearing because of a family emergency. Keeping the public hearing open would allow the applicant the opportunity to speak regarding this request. And as you know, City Council granted that request. At this time, there's no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for City Council at your February 3rd meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come and you'll be sworn in by the clerk.
If you will raise your right hand and place your left on the Bible, do you swear or affirm that the comments you are about to provide are the whole truth and nothing but the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Jerry Futrell. This past November, 2 years ago, myself, my wife Carol, and NJ took over this property because of the death of NJ's brother. We come into the situation with really the number of games that we have right now. After the flood and after fixing the building a year ago, prior to November, which would have been our first year in business with us three, we went to the city, and through the inspections process, we made several upgrades to the building, electrical, and in that process is when we found out that we weren't in compliance as far as the number of machines, because we had been told that they had already been stepped up. Since we have taken over the business, we have made substantial improvement in the property. Outside lighting, to increase the lighting all the way around the building. I have pictures that show our overflow parking potential if we need it. I have pictures showing that evening that we had roughly about 120 people in the establishment, we still had plenty of parking due to the fact that very seldom does a husband and wife, if they come to play, drive separate vehicles. I bring in, on the average, I'd say on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, we have clients or people that come to play with us that come from as far away as Wilmington, and they actually bring a small van and may have 8, 9 people that play. They eat supper in Goldsboro prior to coming to our establishment, so they're adding to the economy of Goldsboro. We have not said that we would not or did not want to increase parking. We're more than willing to increase parking if the city council says that you'd like us to do it. We've just put a bunch of money into landscaping. As far as we've replanted grass, we have worked our butts off this past summer trying to get grass to grow in rocks. Because at one time, the whole back area of this business was really no more than a truck stop at some point. I think you said one, NJ. And the property has been in NJ's family for 3 generations. His grandfather run Western Steakhouse. I don't know if anybody's old enough to I know I don't remember it. But we have done substantial work, and I'd love y'all to see the pictures that we've done. We've had pruning done to the pecan trees here. This is the first picture I'm handing. As you can tell, we've overseeded for the winter, trying to keep the grass seed that we planted this year. As of right now, yes, we have 52 marked parking spots, but all along the front side of this building is opportunity to park, but we have not marked them because this area is a gray area as far as what the city of Gold, they've said that could be deemed right away, and I shouldn't actually mark them, but I can add 22 to 25 parking spaces along the front of the building. This is where we added some more shrubbery. We've added approximately 30 azaleas and boxed them in nice, added trees, added a whole ridge line of trees along the back side of the property, added roses around the building. I think we've increased the visual aspect of the building easily 150%. These pictures here show the evening that I was talking about. We had roughly about 100 to 126 people in the business. As you can tell, the parking lot is nowhere near full. We still had approximately, I had it wrote down, I think we still had roughly 18 parking spaces that night. And this is another view from the back. This is the parking, this is where we could have overflow parking if we need to. This area is very well lit. I mean, to the extent back here you could play a baseball game at night, because we had Duke Energy come in and add approximately 6 extra lights over what we had initially. I've always said that I much rather do something by the book or the way an inspector says to do it, and I've dealt with inspections for going on 30 years, than try to hide or buck something. And that's how we come about finding out that we were not in accordance. And that's where we stand. If y'all would like to ask any questions, I'd love to answer if I can. Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm glad to see, well, I hate to hear about your situation, the last meeting. I'm glad to see you here tonight. I'm very familiar with that area. I remember when there was another establishment a few years back when I was in college. I came back to frequent it. It was called Teasers at that time. But the first thing I notated, you said that you know there's a flood zone. And as a fireman, we've had calls back there. We see the water table, and based on the topography, it's at a low-lying area. So we realized that even though you said you have overflow parking in the rear, it needs to be paved, because the water table being high in the ground and cars could tend to, if you're expecting to expand to 101. And just based on my calculations, if you have 52 spots, on average it'd be 3 people per car to fulfill that, and I don't really see that being the case. I know a couple people that own internet cafes, and gambling is an addiction just like anything else. I'm all about entrepreneurship and the American dream, but this city is already riddled with poverty. And my friend told me he has about 6 machines, and on average a day, he said he can generate between 15,000 a day with 6. So based on the calculations of 101, what would your projections be on the money that you take in, and what do you think that you possibly would donate back to the community, taking in that kind of money? What would the gain be for the citizens that are possibly losing their homes, their lifestyles based on the gambling addiction they have? I'm just looking at some instances that I've seen personally with people that I know.
I will say from my experience for 2 years, and my wife does the bookkeeping for our business, I know what type of machines your friend has. I do not allow those machines in my business.
Okay.
That's as far as I'd like to go on that. Okay?
Okay.
Just because, and I'm saying this from the revenue that you say he's
Right.
making a day.
Well, the reason I asked, you're saying people are traveling all the way from Wilmington, so there's got to be some form of gain for them to come an hour. And
Number
10
one,
minutes.
the average age group that comes into my game room is 35 plus.
Right.
I have a bunch of older clientele. I don't care. I really don't want a younger clientele. Younger clientele are rambunctious. I hate to say it. I have a clientele that I think of as my family. They know me, they know my wife, they know NJ. And we've worked hard to build that clientele. That's why we have older groups that come from, and where their average age is probably 55, 60 years old that drive. Number one, because we have a quiet game room. It's not rambunctious. Number two, I have floor runners that will bring them drinks, that will cater to them just like any restaurant in town to service them. And that's what I offer. I offer a good, clean facility. I invite all of y'all, please come, look at my facility, then go to other facilities. And you'll see why I have people drive from Wilmington down, because my facility is clean. And we work hard to maintain that facility. As far as what do I put back to my community, I employ 17 people, sir. Out of my 17 employees, I can honestly say that only one of my employees is not a single parent. I pay my employees well above minimum wage in a job that anywhere else pays them roughly minimum wage to $9 an hour. The starting salary at my place is roughly $11 an hour, and they can move up from there. We have looked over the past year at even offering my employees insurance. We are not a fly-by-night, pay under the table, do this where people don't see. I try to treat my employees fairly. I pride myself that we do everything above table. We pay taxes, and we're not one of the, I hate to say it, other places that may not be. As far as putting back into my community, I can see where eventually, if this is allowed permanently, that this could be a very good tax revenue for the city of Goldsboro. Very good tax revenue for the city of Goldsboro. And that's about what I can say on that matter, because I can say that, and Carol can back me up on this, we have many a time reached out to people in need in our community, have we not? That they did not even know we reached out to. Just because we did have the ability and the funds that we could afford to, where even in one situation, no names mentioned, two actually, we helped bury family members of that person, and they didn't even know we even did it. And when I say we helped bury, I'm saying we paid for it, and they didn't even know that it had been done.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? I appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all, and I also wanted to tell y'all, thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight, because last month, if you'd have told me I won't be able to be here, there is no way, because I've had our family has had a very large bomb dropped on us, and we're just starting the process of healing that now. and I appreciate y'all's
Well, thank
allowing
you,
me to
sir.
put my input into it.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Is there anyone else comment on this CU-13-19? There being none, public hearing is closed. And Planning Commission, I'm sure you're ready to go. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it very, very much. You're excused. At this point in time, we go into our public comment period. I'd like to say that public comments, a time limit of 3 minutes per person, and I would hope we would have very little election hearing comments.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm looking at the minutes that were a part of today's. It's item I, the City of Goldsboro Agenda Memorandum, and the subject was the Advisory Board and Commission appointment. Under the background, there's a description. There are currently several vacancies on the advisory boards and commissions. Citizens' involvement is vital to the performance of city government. And I have to say I agree with you. I really do think it is vital that we as citizens are involved. My question today, and then of course, you know, I have a concern, and then I'm going to give you a solution. I feel like that's the only way. Which citizens came to question to me? Are you referring to the citizens that are friends to the councilmen and councilwomen, the directors, the employees of the city? Or are we referring to citizens that are in identical walks of life as some of us or have the same agenda? Or are we just saying we want to have a very diverse? And when I say diverse, I am not talking about race. I want to make sure we understand that. I'm talking about economics. The diversity of economics, meaning individuals that may have a different perspective that could assist in these boards and these commissions. And I say that to say is because I know there are some individuals, younger individuals, that made application based on me recommending them. However, their applications never even made it to any of the boards that they applied for. So those boards couldn't even recommend them at all because their applications never showed up. I even saw my own relative's name on the December 16 meeting that she was recommended for a board, but then of course she didn't make it. And all of that makes me wonder, how is this whole process really working? Because you're saying, well, we were recommended. Well, there's individuals that were recommended to boards that's already sat on boards, and now they're getting recommended to new boards. When you have people coming on and applying that's not getting any recommendations, and they're not showing up as even have applied. And I think that should be. So here's my recommendation, as always. I think that perhaps in the future, next year in December or in November when we put this out, that once the commissions, because I'm on the Historical Commission, when we make our decisions on who we would like to recommend, that then either the chairman of that commission or the councilman or woman that sits on those commissions bring the recommendation to you all versus the actual city employee. I love Jennifer. I'm not trying to say, hey, I don't take it personal. But however, just to make it where we know that we may feel more comfortable knowing that those individuals did it versus the city employee. So that's my recommendation. Please.
That's a great idea.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. That's a good idea. We knew Ms. Pierce. I wish you'd give us your name too, please, sir.
Taylor Williams.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, gentlemen and ladies. I appreciate y'all for having me today. I just wanted to start this off by saying I just want to rest in peace to Pinky, because
Wait 1 second till we get our clock going.
Okay.
I'm sorry to bother you.
It's all right. It's not Jeopardy.
Let's see what we got going here. See if
Ready?
I'm sorry. Pardon me for doing it, but I've got to give everybody equal time. There we go. Now, go ahead.
I was speaking a couple. No. All right. So basically, I just want to say rest in peace to Pinky, man. I think she deserves some kind of I want to say activity or an event or something, just because she's been so influential in this community, such a great impact in this community, left and right, all the way around the board. I don't think it should be one of those things that are kind of swept under the rug and not really paid attention to, anything just lack of there. I feel like she deserves something, so I just wanted to put that on the table for you guys in case you guys wanted to get together and maybe think of a way to get that done, if possible. Also, we're having an issue in West Haven. It's a flood happening on Astor Court specifically. It really floods in that whole area, as you guys probably already know, but I guess they're saying, because I've already talked to some of the managers of housing, they're saying that it's basically because the railroads are owned, I think, by the city or the state. I can't remember. The state. So they can't do anything to fix the flood. But meanwhile, they're still charging people to park on the grass to get away from the flood. Recently, it just rained one time at like 1 o'clock in the morning. By 1:30, I went outside to move the car, and I get in the car, water's flowing out of the car. I'm driving the car, and my feet are like I got flip flops on this side of a pool. It's like that. It was ridiculous. And for them to then say, well, we understand it's flooding, but y'all can't park on the grass, or that's a fine, that's an issue to me, because it's like, okay, either fix the flooding or let us park on the grass. Either way, the flooding got to get fixed. So I think that you guys, I would really appreciate if you guys took some time to dig into that, to go deeper into that as soon as possible, because that's been going on for a long time now. I've been there for over a year. So I understand that that's something that's not going anywhere. The same thing kind of sort of is happening in Day Circle, but they've built trenches there, but it's the same thing. It's just flood issues, and I know that's part of this city. It's just I guess a low land type of thing. One more question. Does anybody understand where the Neuse River got its name from? No? Nobody knows that yet? I'm gonna do some research, and I'm gonna bring that to you guys in the next one, because I believe that has some racial terminology to it or anything of that thing. I believe we should work on changing that name.
It was an Indian term. The Indians named the river.
Okay, cool. As far as Indians go, we've come up to this part of life where we have understand that now if your grandmother or great grandmother or mother's name says colored or Negro on it, then you are actually Aboriginal of this land. Thus meaning we have some things that we have to talk about. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I also want to send my condolences to Ms. Jacobs' family, to her only daughter. To have her pass the day before MLK's celebration, I think there's some meaning behind that, because she truly represented what Martin Luther King Jr. stood for. When they have MLK Day, you know, there's always lunches or dinners, and people quote, "I have a dream," and "we shall overcome," but they're just empty words. That's the sad part about it. They're empty words with people not really understanding what Dr. King actually stood for. And Ms. Jacobs represented that, because she was service to the people. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. died, his approval rating was low. People called him radical. Why did he keep bringing up race? Why is it this? Why? They were not in agreement with what he was pushing for. That came many, many, many years later. So I say to you, Mr. Williams, stay on track. Same thing with the rest of you. Stay on track. I also was a little disappointed that the city held this MLK event, and you had county commissioners there, which was nice, which was good. But I would have loved to see our new elected Black councilwoman. This historic moment should have also been highlighted. And I tend to think that was personal, because the community affairs director was also the same person that called Ms. Matthews, Mr. Pollock, and Mr. Williams fascists, unfit, and shouldn't have had the seat. So when you, Mr. Acock, say that Mr. Williams is being personal. The only personal person that has an issue is Ms. Carter. Mr. Williams is not suing the city. Ms. Carter is suing the city as well as attempting to sue Mr. Williams. So you should look at that. The saddest part, that two people pulled a page from MLK's book when you stood up to speak on behalf of Ms. Jacobs, and the same community affairs director blocked or attempted to block him for asking for just a moment of silence. And it took another woman from the college to step forward, because she did what MLK would have done. When everyone else was saying, don't get into it, she did. When everyone else was saying to you, don't get into it, you stood. So we have to be careful about just saying good quotes and just going to dinners. If you really respected the man, let your actions show that, not your empty words.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak tonight? If not, we'll close the public comment period. We now come to consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Consent agenda items G and H are forwarded for council approval.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda items G and H.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock?
Yes.
Okay, items requiring individual action. I, advisory board and commission appointments, presented for formal adoption as discussed during the working session.
Make a motion, we adopt the advisory board and commission appointments as applied during the work session.
Have a second? Second, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next thing, city manager's report, sir.
Nothing to add, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Got council members' reports and recommendations, and we'll start with you, Councilmember Williams.
First, I'd like to apologize for our work session meeting. I was a little irritable and irritated. So I apologize to anyone that felt that I was harsh to them. We lost Pinky Jacobs, who has done so much for this community. She has been like my #1 supporter from my district. She died on Sunday, and it's a great loss. It's a great loss. She was my friend. She cared about this community more than anybody that I know. She fed people's children. She clothed people's children. She opened her house up and let strangers live with them. She paid people's rent out of her own pocket. She cleaned up the community. She stood up to our mayor, to council members, to anyone that she felt wasn't being fair. I'm gonna miss her. She was a true hero. She did what the Bible teaches us all to do. She lived it. Pinky Jacobs, everybody knew Pinky Jacobs. She was the realest person that I knew. I don't know, it seems like a nightmare. She was just in my store. It seems like a nightmare. She helped me advocate for the summer youth employment program. She went out door to door. She talked to parents. She talked to teenagers. I don't know. I just pray that people they do what she always talked about, that it takes a village. You know, we need reinforcements. You know, she wrote letters to young men that were incarcerated. One of them is sitting right there. She wrote letters to him to encourage him. It was going to be okay. So I apologize to this council. I was, I'm going through some things. I'm human. I'm human. And I just pray to her family. God holds the family together. And if she's ever done something good for you, acknowledge that. She left a legacy. She was only 38 years old. Thank you.
I would be remiss if I didn't piggyback on what Councilman Williams said. Ms. Jacobs actually spoke with me on Friday in reference to advocating for one of her constituents, or thought it was mine possibly. So I spoke with her Friday, and we've had a consistent relationship for years, and I'm glad that I was able to record several sessions where she spoke to my class. So my students wanted me to be a vessel for them tonight to offer their condolences to the Jacobs family, as well as today we did a lot of playback on YouTube of some of the videos where she spoke to my class. As Councilman Williams said, she opened her doors to about 40% of the students that I teach daily. And I've seen the things that she's instilled in them. So I don't want to say she's gone. I want to say that she's transitioned, and her spirit resonates in the students at Goldsboro High School. So we'll keep the family in our prayers. Thank you.
Sometimes Miss Jacobs and I didn't see eye to eye, but I always really respected her. And I knew her father and her mother very well when I was a banker. But she stood for what's right, and she didn't care who she said it to. So you've got to respect somebody who does that. And I always respected her. She didn't agree with me, and I didn't agree with her on a lot of things. But there was never an ill word. She did what she thought was right. So the next thing I have is I want to congratulate everybody that did something on the Martin Luther King celebration. I thought it went off really well. I don't know how we could be any more motivated than Congressman Butterfield's speech. It was wonderful. It was a great speech. It's one I wish every civics class could hear. So Goldsboro is very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have him again as our representation. He's done a lot for this city. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I, too, have to echo Councilman Williams and Councilman Pollock. Pinky was one of the first people I met when I moved back here from college, when I really wanted to get into community and giving back. And I've been running with her ever since. So it is a terrible loss. Some of my most fondest memories of Pinky is her standing right here at this podium, sharing love and sharing light. No matter how she was received on this side of the table. And as a Black woman, to see her in that capacity was so important to me. Throughout this campaign, as things were being political, I definitely look forward to her early morning messages to just tell me to stand firm in my truth. So Pinky has passed the baton. I am picking it up, and I will continue to stand in my truth.
Thank you.
Well, I have to speak of Ms. Jacobs also. About a year after I came on the council, having seen Ms. Jacobs come before us and speak and advocate for things that she felt to do so, I called her and I said, Why don't you and I get together and have lunch? I want to know more about you, and I want you to know more about me. I don't want to be your enemy. I want to know what makes you who you are. So we met at Torero's, and we spent an hour and 20 minutes sitting there, just chatting. That to me showed me that she was willing to reach out to me and understand my philosophy, my background, what I believed in, and vice versa to her. I'll always appreciate her doing so.
There was one thing about Pinky that I always thought so much about her, was that she could come up here and she could chastise us, and she'd do it in a way where we didn't get angry. She did it in a way where we understood what she was saying. And she was such a gentle soul. And, you know, I send my condolences to her family.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you. I accept your apology.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No closed session today?
No, sir.
There being no more business to come before the board, we are now adjourned.